So, two things I love are anime and the Joseon era. And Joseon anime is a very untapped market, and that's probably for good reasons. So, as your favorite Korean, I hope, I'm here to fill that hole in your hearts by making a set of anime characters from the Joseon era. Alright, let's go. So, first off, we have our protagonist, Hiro, which is not a serious name, but I couldn't be bothered to come up with something better. I wanted this story to be very generic and anime-like. That was my main goal, just to make it feel like an anime. So I gave him a very typical protagonist personality. He's very boisterous, young, just very energetic and willing to do anything. I bet he loves food, which is a common trait in so many anime protagonists. Jesus Christ. So, following some more anime tropes, he's not fully human. So you may be wondering, what's his other half? His other half is dokebi. What is a dokebi? Well, it's a goblin from Korean mythology, except in my interpretation, it's only loosely based off the mythology. In fact, mythology, they can be very varied in interpretation. Like some provinces, they really like dokebis and they leave out offerings, and some try to ward off dokebis. It's a whole thing. They can be mysterious tricksters, or they can be kind and helpful. It really depends on who you ask. But in my version, dokebis are just kind of like living their life. They're just a species wandering this world. They make up they're in this world. There's two main populations: the dokebi populations and the human population. And then there's all these subspecies. Not subspecies of them. There's species that are not as primary. And following another trope of bad organization, good organization, Hiro is part of the Dokebi Rescue and Rehabilitation Association, which is a very long term, but bear with me here. So, why does the Dokebi Rescue and Rehabilitation Association exist? Well, I was thinking, in a world where there's mythical monsters, and mythical Korean monsters to be specific, humans would probably not stand a chance. But what if they did? What if they developed ways in which they can fend for themselves and even capture these monsters to use for their own will? And that's the idea that humans are not very good for doing these to monsters, for not just dokebi, but other mythical creatures. And that's where the Dokebi Rescue and Rehabilitation Squad comes in. They just, they save them, basically. And as per usual, he wants to be the very best of his profession. He wants to be the leader, which I'm sure is more a bout of strength thing than a hereditary thing. But that's gonna be very hard for him because he's half human, and there's probably a lot of negative stigma surrounding that. A lot of his story is surrounding him, he accepts the fact that he's human. And one interesting thing about Korean mythology that I took inspiration was, dokebi can be born from blood-staining household objects. So I took that idea, but I expanded upon it further. It's dokebi can be born from human blood-staining objects. Usually they're not, but specifically household objects, I should mention that. But they're also just kind of born, they procreate. And not only are they born from it, but they can also get more powerful from human blood. So I had this idea that Hiro starts off really weak because he's only half dokebi. But think about this. As a human, he naturally has human blood flowing inside of him. So as the story progresses and he accepts his human side more, he becomes stronger. And the idea of the story was not that humans are bad. It's that they can't work together. There's disparity between the two groups. And at first he just hates them. He has a lot of trauma surrounding them. But then he learns, well, aren't I just sharing the same bias I have, humans have towards dokebi? And then his goal goes from becoming the master to kill all humans to becoming the master to unify them. And his whole character is full of contrasting ideas. That was my main kind of goal for this character. I wanted it to be very contrasting. He's half dokebi, but he's also half human, two opposing sides. And I also put that in his color palette later, which you see later. I also included that in his weapon, which is a rusted needle, which kind of started off as a joke weapon, I'm not gonna lie. It comes from my username being Rusty Tubas, and I wanted to have a sword-like weapon, but it also had to be household, so I come up with rusted needle. And basically, that rusted needle helped me create this character so much. Props to that rusted needle. So from that rusted needle, I start to think, well, why would he use this as a weapon? How does he use the weapon? And I thought, for the magical system of this world, dokebis can get very attached to normal objects, like household objects, and they become so attached that their magic forms around these objects, and they can like manipulate it to their goals, to achieve their goals. So while most people in the Rehabilitation Association uses their favorite objects as weapons, they can just be used for like normal stuff. And here Hiro has a rusted needle, which he can just like make bigger, and then later on it becomes more powerful, but I'll explain that later. So when I thought of his weapon, I thought, why would he be using a rusted needle? And then I thought, well, maybe he didn't have access to any other needles, and so he grew attached to that one specifically. So I thought to myself, oh, then he's probably pretty poor if he can't afford other needles. It's like just a very thin piece of silver. And I thought, hey, isn't it kind of contradictory that a needle should be rusted? Because you use it to mend stuff together, to bring stuff together. But if you use it as a weapon, you're probably going to create destruction. If it's rusted, it's probably going to break. And so there's some symbolism going into his weapon of like, you have to be you gotta bring stuff together and tear stuff apart, like find a balance between the two. And I was thinking, he's really weak at first because he doesn't know how to use his weapon. It just keeps breaking and breaking. But as he like learns to be more precise and kind of more organized, I guess, he's more useful with his weapon, I guess, and he actually like stabs instead of like going crazy with it. And then he learns that when he stabs something with his needle, it can actually like corrode and rust it, you know, and that can be really destructive and really powerful. I thought that was a really cool idea. But not only does it have the power of destruction, but as a needle, it can probably bring stuff together if you mend stuff. And then I added this little like string that's wrapped around the entire needle in case if it like breaks, it magically comes together with the string, just in case, because you know, in this world, if their favorite object breaks in any way or like chips or anything bad happens to it, dokebi become really depressed, and like they can move on and they can find new favorite objects, but it's like a traumatic experience if something happens to their favorite object, which is so real of them. And so to show that he sews a lot, I made his clothing look patched together. I would have gone more crazy with it and added more like strips of clothing, because I had the idea that like instead of buying new clothes, he just adds to his clothes because that's how poor he is. And I would have done more of the stitching if I didn't want it to be too busy, because I also kept in mind about like if a studio was animating this, they'd also want like a simpler design, so I had to keep that in mind. But I also gave him these like cool little patches on his knees because I thought they were cute, and again, I wanted to create as much contrast as I could everywhere. Another detail I came up with was that dokebi can get so attached to their favorite objects that they can like merge it with their body. They can become one. And that's why he has this little scar on his forehead. That's where he stores the needle when he's not using it and it's small. I also referenced this world based off another world I made in the past, and I made a little infographic chart about it. And I just had this little cute fact where dokebi like to wear face paint and just like eye makeup and staining their teeth. So I gave him some of that, except it's not very well done because he's not the person who would like intricately put on his face paint. He'd probably just smashes his finger in the ink and smudges it around his eyes, and that's his daily routine. And you know what? You stand in for that. And this drawing is about done. Hope you like him. Alright, so this is our protagonist, Hiro, and now on to the next character. Now on to a character that definitely would and definitely does take time out of their day to intricately put on face paint. And that is the rival character named Ebol, last name Ra. So if you say it in the Korean order of which we say names, you get Raibol. So smart, I know. Alright, so I once read something about rivals, about how they should have like a similar goal to the protagonist, but have like an opposite approach to it. And I really like that. And so following, you know, the way a rival is usually supposed to be, they're the complete opposite of Hiro. In both personality and in backstory and just class. I was thinking I wanted a very elegant, well-mannered character who is extremely skilled, like he's formally trained in everything. And so I made his proportions really long and slender because that's what I think of when I think of elegance. And for his weapon, his favorite item, I wanted something to represent his diplomacy. So I chose the brush, of course. And then when he like uses it in its attack form, it takes the shape of a weapon that's used both in Korea and China, called what's called? I wrote it down somewhere. The Waldo. In China, it's called the Guandao. And it has this like, it's a spear with this curved blade, and on the end there's a little thing sticking out, of the blade, and basically that's used to like knock people off their horses. So the blade is like the hardened bristles of the brush, so that's why you can see like some few stray strings sticking out. My idea was that like when it turns into its weapon form, it's like hardened into steel. So Ebol is a very rich and from a very noble family. I was thinking that his father is the current like leader of the Rescue and Rehabilitation Association. And you know, there's a lot of pressure for him to follow in his father's footsteps. I'm sure not only does it come from his family, but from like society in general. I'm sure he's like a very well looked up to figure in his community. And he definitely shows for it. He's a very powerful dokebi, very skilled for his age. So, Hiro and Ebol, they're both in their teenage years. Their fangs are still growing in and their horns are still growing in. So they're not as long as they would be in their adult forms. But I would say Ebol is definitely more like developed fang-wise and horn-wise than other teenagers. And that's like completely opposite to Hiro, who looks mostly human. Like he has like slight fangs, they're kind of underdeveloped, doesn't really have horns, and his ears aren't really sharpened. And that's basically what defines a dokebi in this world. I was thinking of giving them like the dokebi skin tone of being red, but that did clash with their color palettes too much, so they just have human skin tones. You see this later, but I put like this blue face paint on him, and I was thinking that nowadays they use face paint for like aesthetic and decorative purposes, but traditionally the reason why they started using face paint was to seem more scary and demon-like. And so he wears this face paint in that style where like it's supposed to be scary and not aesthetic. And then because he wants to appear that way, he wants to be the strong figure that people look up towards. But then as he moves on, he becomes more himself. He becomes more comfortable with himself and takes off the face paint. And like I said before, human blood is the reason why dokebi can get more powerful. So he's very powerful for a teenager. Think about that. I'm really trying to teeter along these backstories because I really hate describing backstories out loud. Anyway, to describe his outfit a bit more and explain it, his like chest guard, it's like a modified version of armor called chalga, which is like these plates of either leather or metal that are like strung together. And Korean chalk-up is kind of unique in that it has like a neck guard. It can be like a lot longer than what it is here, but I cut it down. And I think that neck guard really really exemplifies his kind of like stoic, reserved personality. You know, he's basically the opposite to Hiro in all ways, so he's definitely not as loud or energetic, and he's more intelligent than he is like brave. I mean, he is brave, but you know what I mean. And so I just basically wanted him to be like a staple of, or like the principle of what a dokebi should be. Like, he's the standard of society, and that's supposed to clash with Hiro, who is, you know, he is a hybrid. He doesn't stick in. He's kind of ostracized for that. So I'm sure Evil and Hiro, they probably don't get along in the beginning. They come from very different backgrounds, and in Evil's background, he probably wouldn't be taught to accept people like him. But you know, they kind of help each other develop. Hiro helps him be more himself, more accepting of himself, of who he is, and Evil, he just like helps him skill-wise and helps him learn patience and like the staples of like what it means to be a good leader. Because I'm sure Evil got some like specialized training in that sense, because you know, his father, he really wants him to be the next leader. He wants to carry on this like noble bloodline. And so while the hair is also kind of a traditional Korean thing, usually it's just one braid, but I thought he would look really cool with 2 braids, so I gave him 2 braids. I initially had this idea that he had like a softer side to him that he doesn't show, like he's holding himself back, you know, because of what's expected of him. And in his concept art, I had this idea that he actually has like 2 favorite items, and his actual favorite item is a blanket, but I kind of scrapped that because I thought that was just like too complicated. But like, keep that in mind. Like, I think maybe later on in this like theorized show, maybe he like switches what his favorite item is, because maybe the brush isn't his favorite item, but like he just feels the need to make it his favorite. Like, he has like a reliance on it to seem better than everyone else. And yeah, so I wanted him, like I said before, I like the quote that like rivals should be the opposite but have the same goals, and like they should parallel and contrast with each other. So I kind of had this also, well, Hiro had this like motif of like conflicting ideas. I also had that for Evil. So like, you know, he's very stoic and he's very elegant, but he also has like a side of him that he doesn't like to show to others, like I said before, with like the blanket idea. And I also kind of showed that in his design, like one place in the design, which is the hair, where the upper layer is black and the upper layer is like white, this white blue. Yeah, I only gave him 1 horn because I like that asymmetry, and I think it's cute. But I definitely might change that in the future if I decide to do more of these characters. Anyways, fun fact, I had to change his hair design because in his concept art, he just looked so much like a Blue Period character. I think his name was Hashira, and the resemblance was uncanny, let me tell you. Anyways, his character development would be like, he tries to be the best, and he makes himself like the unofficial leader because he feels like he needs to be, and he doesn't show his true personality. He's always very like holding himself back to be a staple of society. And then when he hangs around Hiro and hangs around this other character I'm gonna introduce, he like that principle of his kind of lessens, and he more accepts himself as, you know, just himself and not like trying to appease everybody. And he kind of takes a back seat in like, I don't really need to be the leader, and I kind of don't want to be. That's like a huge responsibility. I'm just okay supporting someone from the side. And that's Ebol. Hope you like him. Alright, and here's the final product for our handsome boy Ebol. On to the last character. The next character that I'm really excited to introduce is the best friend character I've named Besa, short for best friend. I'm so good at names, guys. Anyway, Besa is supposed to be the emotional heart of the group because Hiro is the strength, and then Ebol is the intelligence, and then Besa is the kindness. She's the youngest of the group at 14, while Hiro and Ebol are like 17. And her inspiration came from when I was thinking about the horns of Dokebi. I was like, I don't want Dokebi horns to just be one kind of format. I wanted them to be really diverse. And I thought it would be cool to have like different kind of like ethnic subgroups of Dokebi that have different horns. And so I thought it'd be really cool to have a Dokebi of ram horns, and that's where a big motif of her comes in, is that she has like a ram kind of thing going on. And since Hiro and Ebol are both attack characters, I wanted her to be a support character and a healer. And when you think of healers, you think of religion. So I made her an amalgamation of two really big religions in Joseon Korea. Buddhism was kind of in a decline during that era, but it was still very present and big. So besides Buddhism, like I said, she also draws from shamanism, and you can see that in her staff. Right now it's like this, and it's a attack form, quote unquote, but in its original state it actually looks like a baby rattle. And this baby rattle is very similar to this 7-bell rattle shamans use. Actually, they use in their rituals. And I was thinking she can enlarge this as a staff, not only to use as a weapon, but it looks really similar to a Buddhist staff. So that's how that ties in. Which has various names because Buddhism is it's spread out a lot. So I believe its original name is Kakahara. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but in Korea it's called Sokjang. And in real life applications of this Buddhist staff, it would be used for ritual chanting and even used as a weapon when traveling. But it also has these bells or rattles on it to scare away animals while you're walking through places, I guess. So Besa uses this staff in the ways I mentioned before, but she also uses it for magic. I didn't want to limit Dokebi's magic to just they can change their favorite item. So Ebol also has magic and Besa also has magic, but I guess there's different sectors. I'm sure that magic to Dokebis is more complicated than what they can do with their favorite items, and only a select few can do it. I haven't worked that out much, but basically Ebol probably does more attack related magic and she does healing magic. So she does that by rattling her staff, I guess. And she's the rehabilitation part of the rescue and rehabilitation squad. I was thinking that in this kind of world, in the association, you have squads that go out and do missions. So you have the rescue part and you have the rehabilitation part. And then these are the squads that actually go out and do stuff active field work. And then I guess there's a sector that does more rehabilitation. They have hotels, not hotels, but centers where they help people who they have rescued. So as stated before, that besides the staff, her outfit is based off of a Buddhist outfit it's derived from the outfit you wear in Sungmu, which is a Buddhist ritual dance. Usually this is really just done during the ritual, but I really like the look of this kind of dress. I just thought it was so cute and I love it. So I put it on her, except I cut the skirt a little short because I wanted her to appear younger, and I'd just be more convenient if it was shorter. Except that convenience things kind of goes out the window when you have these long ass sleeves. That it's entirely for aesthetic purposes. I just thought it was cute. I wanted her to be a very cutesy character. You know, you have like these like tough, manly characters like Hero and Evil. You need some cuteness. And so, like I said before, she's the kindness of the group. And I think a lot of her kindness, a lot of her morals come from her background living in a monastery. I had the idea that she was raised her entire life in the monastery. How she got there, how she ended up there, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's an angsty backstory behind that, but I don't know what it is. Anyways, her storyline kind of follows that like this is her first time really exploring the world outside of her monastery, and her character development kind of revolves around exploring the world outside of the monastery, obviously, but also having her like kindness and her beliefs challenged, because Buddhism is a very beautiful religion. It has a lot of beautiful morals and principles, but sometimes it can be really hard to apply those morals into the real world, and that's something that she's gonna struggle with, and she's gonna lose faith in humanity a little, but in the end she's gonna overcome them. Her kindness is gonna shine through and, you know, reward people at the end. I was thinking maybe there'd be an arc where like she shows mercy on a villain, I guess, but that villain ends up betraying her and she goes through this whole angsty rant about it or whatever. But maybe in the end the villain actually helps her in the end. I thought that might be cute. So Besa, like I said before, is the best friend character, and she's the best friend to Hero initially. I'm sure she becomes great friends with Evil later, but they probably met when they were children, because Hero, as someone poor and an orphan, did I mention that before? He's an anime protagonist, so you should have just like assumed so. But since he was poor, he probably frequented the monastery a lot to take advantage of their charity. Not take advantage, but like get meals and stuff to survive. And, you know, that's Besa's monastery, so they probably met and probably have a lot of good memories together. And, you know, were really hyped up when they got put in the same kind of squadron for the association. And so I had a lot of fun with Besa's character design. I love the Sugmu kind of outfit, so that was really easy for me. And then I added these little bells, a bell on her horn, because it reminded me of like rams and stuff. Yeah, I also thought that the staff looked good with her outfit because it kind of reminded me of like a herding staff. So her staff really just ties it all together. I just really like bells, so I put them all over the design. She's wearing like a bell earring. She's not built for selfish, and I'll tell you what, don't put her sneaking around. I really like her eyes. You might not notice, but like embedded in her staff are like little kind of, I don't want to say crystals, but they're not like rocks, but it looks like her eyes, and I thought that's cute. It's always awkward when I compliment myself on my own character designs. Like, I'm really patting myself on the back here. Anyway, as the heart of the group, she draws the group together because Hero and Evil, they obviously don't get along, but none of them really have reason to not get along with Besa. I mean, she's Hero's best friend. She's very young compared to them, and she's very naive, so they kind of have to form a bond to like make sure she doesn't fucking die, and that's what draws them together. Like, she acts like a younger sister to both of them. I really wanted to make sure that if I had like two people of like a different gender in the same group, I didn't want them to have a romance or for people to ship them, because I really don't like that in series when people just like get together because they're the same gender. So she does not do anything romantic. She's 14 and she wants to be like a full-fledged monk when she grows older, so she has no romantic pursuits. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Anyways, I had a lot of fun making her. She's probably my favorite, and I hope she's your favorite too. Alright, here's the final product for the best girl Besa. So here are all the characters I made in a lineup. It was really fun making them, and it was really fun making this video. So if there is an interest, I would definitely be down to expand on them and this world. But for now, this is the end. Bye!